And what is up, guys? Welcome to episode 9 of the LBank Show. I'm your host, Moha, and today with us we are having an amazing guest. And you did see the tweet, right? We're having Avalanche, and Avalanche is a layer 1 blockchain that functions as a platform for decentralized applications and custom blockchain networks. It is one of the top Ethereum rivals, aiming to unset Ethereum as the most popular blockchain for smart contracts in the world. Avalabs and Avalanche are building heavily in the bear market, and I will not take more of the time talking about Avalanche because I have an amazing guest for that, and his name is Matthew. Matthew is coming as a senior business developer at Avalabs. And hi, Matt, welcome to LBank Show again, and hopefully you can hear us well.
Yeah, how are you?
You here as an Avalanche representative at LBank Show. I just want to say that we will have three parts of our show. The first part will be free chat. We will talk about what has been on your mind recently. The second part will be AMA, some of the questions our users wants to know about, and the third part will be, of course, end. But Matt, the golden question has what has been on your mind recently?
Honestly, other than going hiking and camping in my free time, a lot. It's been an interesting year and a half within blockchain and crypto. Um, I think we've constantly seen hype and bear cycles, and it's kind of the nature of the beast regarding blockchain and what happens in regards to new retail users. But I'm kind of more bullish than ever on the underlying technology. And here at Avalabs and Avalanche, we've just constantly been pushing new updates on the platform layer as well as making new connections on the application layer. But yeah, I think it might be good to just kind of start from the beginning and who I am and how I got involved within the Avalanche ecosystem. But it's nice to be here on the show today, and thanks for having me. But yeah, I joined Avalabs about a year and a half ago, and how I got involved in blockchain and crypto actually started late 2020 and early 2021, and I was watching YouTube videos, podcasts at the time, and that was right after the pandemic. And a little bit about me, I graduated actually from college during the absolute worst part of the pandemic. I graduated May of 2020. So my original actually career position, um, and it was like a leadership development program I was going to be in within traditional finance. It actually my start date got delayed 6 months. And so I was one of the unfortunate people where start date got delayed, kind of career impacted by the pandemic. And luckily, that job ended up starting in January of that year, so January of 2021. But it gave me a little bit of free time. I ended up finding kind of a temporary position that was an intern. Well, it was with a company I interned for in more of like an accounting role, which I definitely didn't want to be an accountant by trade, but it was the pandemic, and so I had to find something to do. Um, but yeah, so I was watching podcasts and YouTube videos and that sort of thing, and being involved pretty heavily in finance, I knew the Fed, basically unlimited quantitative easing, was going to lead to inflation. And I was like, all right, what's the hardest asset or some of the best assets to protect my own wealth from inflation, or at least outpace inflation? And kind of stumbled on Bitcoin and distributed ledger technology and immutability, that sort of thing. And I was like, all right, this makes way too much sense. I'm gonna just buy some on Coinbase. So I started off mainly buying Bitcoin, but diversified into Ethereum as well as bought a little bit of Chainlink at the time. Um, and from there, I ended up kind of watching the YouTubers that kind of show their own coins a little bit more, and got wrecked a little bit when I started going farther out the risk curve. But um, kind of taught me an invaluable lesson to do my own research, read white papers, watch technical talks, that sort of thing. And I think within our industry, it's really hard for newcomers because there's just an abundance of information and you don't know what to trust. um, where to go, that sort of thing. And so I think for like any of the newcomers within the space, and hopefully there's a lot within like the next year or two as we kind of have better underlying market conditions. Um, I think it kind of starts with if you want to hop right in, maybe just buying like the large cap assets on and holding on a very trusted, maybe centralized exchange, and then moving it to your own cold wallet, and then during that time, kind of doing your own research, reading white papers, forming your own theses about why something might appreciate in value or why the underlying technology might be better than something else, that sort of thing. Um, and that's a little bit of how I got involved within Avalanche. Is I started spending way too much time learning about the underlying technology. During my everyday job within traditional finance, I was spending um, more time doing research than actually working, I would say. And so that led me to Avalanche, especially during Avalanche Rush, which is the ecosystem liquidity mining program we had. And so Avalanche, I read the white paper and it just made too much sense to me. And so I kind of became like an Avalanche bull at heart because I believe the underlying technology was the best, as well as my personal thesis of scaling blockchains were application specific blockchains versus like uh, roll ups. But yeah, late 2021, I decided to, hey, like get involved full time within the industry. So I applied for a variety of positions, one at a family office, another at a VC firm. Um, was deep in the interview process at a research firm, as well as it's funny, Luigi from Avalabs, shout out Luigi. He's who told me to apply here. He's our head of DeFi and DevRel at this point in time, and we were interacting on Twitter. And he knew that I wanted to like make blockchain and crypto my full time job, and so he's like, "Hey, we have an open position. You'd be a great fit. Should apply." Uh, did the application process. Really put a lot of effort into that application, and I got a first round interview with Luigi, and he grilled me a bit, but I answered his questions. I think he liked how I thought, and from there, kind of went through the interview process, and I really enjoyed speaking with everyone that was a part of the Avalabs team, and I knew I didn't want to work somewhere where I didn't believe in the underlying technology, and it just so happened to be a perfect fit where I truly um, believed in our vision of scaling, um, our founder's vision of Avalanche consensus, and how new and novel it was in terms of the technical capabilities and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's kind of how I got here today. It's definitely an unusual path, and honestly, I think graduating the pandemic and like facing a little bit of adversity right early on in my career probably made me stronger and more nimble. And so didn't sulk and made kind of the best of the situation. But I'm happy it happened.
Definitely. I mean, amazing story you got here. And you've been looking at the crypto industry for such a long time and working now. I mean, in crypto, I like to add that 1 year in crypto is like 7 years outside in life. So basically, you've been in the crypto for a long time. And what I want to ask you, I mean, this is the bear market we are right in now. Does it feel it like earlier bear markets that we had?
So unfortunately, I was not too involved within blockchain and crypto during like the 2018 bear market. So this is kind of my first real bear market, and it's funny, I've literally worked full time only during the bear market in blockchain and crypto. So I started the first week of March, and I think crypto peaked in November. And so it's maybe I was a curse. It's been down only since I decided to make it a full time career. But I'm joking. But no, to me, it does feel on par for the course from what I've heard and read from kind of the OGs within the space. Um, I think there are definitely some unknowns about still larger players that are maybe just holding on that might make it um, a little bit worse of a bear market in some regards than 2017 and 2018. Um, but overall, I think it's about the exact same. I think, unfortunately, within an industry like blockchain and cryptocurrency, you get a lot of people that might not be good actors and more nefarious in nature and just want to kind of make fast money. And so I think using like the North Star principle of finding people that are not financially driven and kind of making sure your support is behind those people, it's probably the best way I've seen to get through like a bear market and come out on the other side and find like the successful teams for the next bull market.
But we know the Avalanche is building in the bear market harder than ever, right?
Oh, my calendar, like 30 to 35 hours worth of calls every single week. And so still have a ton of interested builders and really just trying to educate our community as well as new people that are not in our community and kind of spread the good word the good word of Avalanche. But yeah, definitely seen some very large technical upgrades. The one I'm probably most excited about is coming here in the next, hopefully, 3 to 6 months, and that's Avalanche Warp Messaging, which is our native messaging layer, very similar to IBC in nature, but instead of using light clients and headers, it's using the primary network and validator to validator interactions within the P chain. And so it's using those validator interactions to pass messages, more specifically BLS signatures, to allow for cross-chain asset passing and that sort of thing. And so it's going to kind of complete our architecture from the initial roadmap, but definitely have it on your radar because I think it'll end up adding to like a proliferation of new subnets launching and kind of native infrastructure that makes it really easy to launch your own blockchain if you want to.
Definitely, we look forward to that one. And what I want to know, I mean, and everyone, can you tell us about Avalanche Foundation and the relationship between Foundation and Avalabs that we have now?
Yeah, so the foundation and Avalabs are two distinct separate legal entities. The foundation is a not-for-profit entity versus Avalabs is for-profit. Avalabs is the servicing firm behind the Avalanche blockchain network, and it's contracted out by the foundation to service the blockchain network as well as um, do business development for the network and that sort of thing. And so I'd say majority of people that say they work at Avalanche actually technically work at Avalabs, and we have a handful of people that specifically work on the foundation side. Um, but yeah, most of the interactions people have publicly are with Avalabs employees versus um, foundation employees.
You're on the front line of Avalanche Foundation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the both entities were formed pretty early on within our origination, and kind of where we started was with Emin Gunsier, which is sorry, he was a professor at Cornell and some of his PhD students. And so kind of an anonymous white paper dropped. It's funny, the anonymous team was called Team Rocket, play on Pokemon for those Pokemon watchers out there. But they dropped a white paper about Avalanche and our novel consensus mechanism, and it kind of really stuck with a lot of people. And I think that's what led people into kind of getting involved very early on with Avalanche.
Definitely. And how does the Avalabs contribute to development of Avalanche public blockchain that we now have? And how does the Avalanche differentiate itself from the other blockchains that we have a lot of them? I mean, you guys have been in the top five, top 10 when it's the bull market. So yeah,
Yeah, so Avalabs contributes both technically and non-technically to the Avalanche network. Technically, our employees push a lot of the platform upgrades and ensure kind of orderly functioning conditions of the blockchain network. Um, our BD team are like all Avalabs employees, and we're constantly doing business development efforts. We're actually broken out by vertical. And what a vertical is just like kind of a section of like expertise or what you're really focused upon. So technically, my area of expertise started mainly within DeFi business development, but since then I've turned to being more of like a generalist in nature. So I've helped quite a bit with like institutional capital markets, or I lead our external data efforts in terms of like integrations and reporting. I help quite a bit with like infra tooling and security projects as well. But we have like 6 or 7 different verticals. So we have uh, DeFi, institutional and capital markets, gaming, NFTs, enterprise, exchanges and wallets, and yeah, those are kind of the big ones at this point in time. And we have smaller, more broken out teams for each of those kind of verticals, as we call them, like I said. And we're all kind of pushing to the greater common goal of Avalanche adoption, just from like a builder as well as a user standpoint. But I think your second part of that question was in relation to um, our like differentiating factors between other blockchains. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I would say our underlying technology infrastructure is most similar to that of Cosmos, as well as like Polkadot you could throw in there, in which we scale kind of horizontally via either application-specific blockchains or blank canvas layer one blockchains. And we're going to have a cross-chain messaging layer, like I mentioned before, called Avalanche Port Messaging. And um, so that's kind of how we end up, well, how we're scaling at this point in time. Right now, we have like 10 to 20 subnets currently live on mainnet. And essentially, subnets are, like I mentioned, application specific or blank canvas blockchains. And they don't even have to be singular blockchains. A subnet could actually be made up of multiple blockchains. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. And so, what the architecture could be is if, like, let's say someone wants a highly performant order book, um, like DEX, and they want to do a lot of people are like, all right, the true time to finality is under a second and TPS is 50,000. That's actually completely possible here within Avalanche. So what the architecture could be, and it's going to obviously require very hefty hardware, so it might be kind of centralized in nature, but you could have your own uh, you could have each market having its own blockchain within a central limit order book subnet. And so each market having its own blockchain would enable those markets to be highly performant in nature and each have, I don't know, under a half a second of finality with like 50,000 TPS if need be. And so our architecture, I always just say it's a blank canvas in nature and it's really up to the builder of what they want to build. Um, but yeah, I'd say right now, those other two mentioned networks are probably who we're most similar to in terms of underlying technology infrastructure. Um, I know a lot of people like to kind of compare us to the Ethereum rollups, but it's not really a one-to-one or apples-to-apple comparison in my books, especially as all of their roadmaps are kind of changing day to day, it seems like, because a lot of the L2s are now spinning off and doing like L3s, being more modular, kind of creating their own SDKs and stacks. And I think they're all trying to figure out how to have like a unified cross-chain messaging layer, whether that be like a shared sequencer or something else in that sort of nature. But yeah, that's kind of how I would say we differentiate ourselves.
Definitely. I mean, we see that, and in the community in LBank really love Avalanche. I mean, they did request a couple of times having you guys on, and fortunately, we got you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thanks for
Uh,
having me.
yeah, no worries. So how does Avalanche architecture allow scalability? We see that's a golden question amongst the blockchains. So how do you allow scalability without sacrificing for example, speed or reliability or security or such a things?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're scaling horizontally via subnets, and as subnets get more decentralized in nature, they're going to allow for permissionless validation of those subnets, and that's really their kind of 0 to 1 moment in terms of meeting all of the criteria of the blockchain trilemma. Um, because then they're properly decentralized, where they're not violating any trust assumptions of be allowing for permissionless validation. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how we scale based on the trilemma is via subnets. We could scale horizontally if need be, but I could argue a lot of the team, or sorry, we could scale via rollups if need be. Um, but I could argue a lot of the rollups are centralized right now, and so they actually don't meet all three parts of the blockchain trilemma if I really wanted to. But that's for a different day, maybe different LBank show. But yeah, and so I think we don't currently have any elastic subnets, which are our permissionless validation subnets. But hopefully in the next 6 months to a year, a few teams at least try and go elastic in nature. Um, I think a few good candidates include Meld, which is building kind of a neobank on-chain for unbanked users. I think they are a good candidate for building an Elastic subnet. I think they have like 15 validators currently, as well as potentially Hubble Exchange, which they have a really interesting um, method of their validator set and validation in general. It's actually using USDC as the gas token, so a stablecoin as a gas token. And so it actually makes it very attractive to run a validator because not only do you get the primary network um, rewards for the Avalanche primary network, but you're also getting um, gas in the form of USDC, which is a non-volatile asset, which is pretty interesting in my opinion as a validator. So I think both of those two have strong potential to become elastic in nature and allow for permissionless validation. And then speed, that's kind of Avalanche consensus at work, I would say. Like Dexalot, they built a subnet using Avalanche consensus and kind of vanilla EVM, just subnet SDK. Um, and to be completely frank, it's getting like I think 0.39 or zero point 0.4 seconds of true time to finality, which is like maybe the fastest in all of blockchain and crypto. I know like Injective and Say and a few other Cosmos teams really did some heavy optimizations to Tendermint and claimed to get under like a second to a second and a half of true time to finality, but Dexalot is still faster somehow. So.
We cannot say that that's luck. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, good technology, and really thanking the founders, Kevin, Emin, Ted, for creating the best consensus mechanism around.
so far, Avalanche is. I mean, the sky's only the limit. But what I want to ask, I mean, about the fees. I mean, we see a lot of blockchains love to be proud on it that they have the lowest fees in the blockchain. So, how does the Avalanche look on that side?
Yeah, so in terms of fees, the primary network is generally like 0.005 a Vox on average for gas fees, or even under that, which I think comes out to being like, I don't know, a few cents or like 5 to 10 cents in nature. So much cheaper than Ethereum mainnet and even the Ethereum L2s at this point in time. And then subnets are a whole different animal. Dexalot, the one I just mentioned, which is a fully on-chain spot-based central limit order book, their subnet is fractions of a penny for every transaction. And DFK, which is DeFi Kingdoms, a popular GameFi subnet, exact same thing, where it's fractions of a penny to transact on those subnets. And so it makes for quite the user experience, that combination of under a second or two true time to finality and being that cheap. It's amazing.
It's unbelievable, and that is a blockchain. That is crypto. I mean, You guys are
Mhm.
are paving the way for other cryptocurrencies. So we can say that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, let's hope.
Let's hope. And what are some of advanced tooling that options available for developers on Avalanche platform that they can use?
Yeah, so this has kind of been one of my main focuses from a BD standpoint the past 3 to 6 months is getting more dev tooling, infra, that sort of thing, projects to build here on Avalanche, as well as Luigi, who I mentioned before. He's our head of DevRel. He started a DevRel team for this purpose as well. So now we have a full-blown DevRel team of, I think, 5 or 6 total members, in which they're constantly helping builders within our ecosystem get kind of acquainted and really aware of the technical capabilities of Avalanche. And so, um, for instance, I think some technical achievements from our own Avalabs platform team that kind of enable better building, like I mentioned, is um, Elastic subnets, Avalanche warm messaging, a highly performant VM SDK called the Hyper SDK, and that currently Hyper VMs uh, on testnet are achieving between like 40 and 50,000 TPS. And so providing kind of fully customized VM building experiences on subnets, I think that's something that we're continuing to push and we're very bullish upon in the next 2 years. Um, I think some enterprises and institutions are just going to want to be very vanilla and generic in nature and just want to have like easy one-click deployment. But others are going to have highly specialized, highly customized virtual machines to whatever they want to do and whatever they want to build for within the blockchain environment. So, like I mentioned before, that might be a highly performant central limit order book with multiple blockchains, each being their own market or something of that nature. But in terms of kind of what we're doing, not from Avalabs directly to help kind of developers and tooling and building, there's a lot, to be honest. There's a team called Spark, which is building a kind of multi-language compiler subnet. There's Ash, which is Avalanche subnet hosting, which is trying to better our own subnet infrastructure and monitoring and whatnot, and really democratize that. There's a team building a shared sequencer subnet in which it's actually trying to scale Ethereum through Avalanche, which sounds really funny, but for instance, if a team is building an L2 on Ethereum and they want to decentralize the sequencer, they could use this decentralized sequencer subnet. It's, I believe, from a team called, I think it's Node Kit. If I, yeah, Node Kit. And so I think they just came out publicly um, within the past 2 weeks, but I had a really good conversation with their founder about a month ago. And so helping him get involved here, um, we kind of have a lot of the common infrastructure as well and APIs like Covalent, Infura, well, RPCs, sorry, in that case. I think at this point in time, we're a mature enough ecosystem where a lot of like the underlying tooling and infrastructure from a developer standpoint, we've done a lot of the legwork to get those to integrate on Avalanche. And so developers have access to that underlying infra as well. And we're actually building a lot of that in-house ourselves at this point in time. So we actually have like free public RPCs that builders can use. We have APIs called Glacier. Glacier also is an indexer. We have our own in-house explorers that if a team needs an explorer, if they're building like a subnet, for instance, they can come to us and we can help them build that out. We have our own wallet that we built, and maybe in the future we'll see there'll be a wallet SDK in which teams can essentially use Core and kind of use the SDK to spin off their own maybe white labeled wallets or something fun like that. But I think to be honest, if you're a builder, there isn't a better ecosystem to build within. In terms of you have basically everything is possible within Avalanche. You want to do rollups, possible. You want to build your own sovereign blockchain, possible. You want native messaging, it's possible. And so it's kind of my 3-minute speech on why I would build here if I were a developer.
It's all on one place. I mean, you can find whatever you want.
Exactly. Exactly.
Definitely, it's like a good supplied Walmart where you don't need anything.
We have toilet paper. It's not like COVID, Jake.
Definitely, definitely. And what how does the Avalanche support the growth of development? You did talk about it, of its ecosystem, and including through the partnerships are there the most important part of Avalanche, pardon me, and expanding in it.
Yeah, so I would honestly say we're probably one of the most hands-on ecosystems in nature. Um, it's funny, we actually have a weekly kind of open forum called In the Labs, in which it's a Twitter space that our official Twitter um, runs, and I'm almost on it every single week, in which if you're a user, you're a builder, just anyone involved that's interested in Avalanche, you can get up there, you can ask us questions, talk to us directly, give us your opinions, your thoughts, your recommendations. And so, honestly, we're constantly trying to better our ecosystem and community. My own personal Calendly is always open. Our DevRels team, their calendar is always open. Really, if you want to build here, if you need our help in any way, we're the most willing, I would say, of any other team almost in all of blockchain. I don't think I've refused a first call in a while. And so always willing to try and collaborate with teams, especially, I mean, one of our main criteria is like non-nefarious actors. So we primarily only want good actors within the space, of course. But other than that, really always trying to work together. And for instance, if a team, let's say it's an enterprise client, if they're building here, we can help regarding like funding, introductions, marketing, technical support. So if they're building their own subnet, we can have a shared Slack channel with a bunch of members of Apple Labs, our DevRel, uh, our product team, Java Studios, our platform team, all within the same Slack channel, which is shared by that external counterparty as well, and really help them um, with building their own subnet. And so, really, it's a pretty open array of how we can help. Um, and we generally are very good at helping any team that is a good actor that wants to build here, that really likes the underlying Avalanche technology, that sort of thing.
And right now, my the question is, and I have a feeling that you did touch on that one, is what is the mission of Ava Labs? I mean, it's to help the people to build, right?
Yeah, I mean that's our unofficial mission. I would say. I'd say our official mission is digitizing all of the world's assets, whether that's real estate, securities, gold, silver, precious metals, anything of that nature. But um, yeah, our unofficial mission, like you said, is um, helping people build here, making builders interested, making users want to stay using the underlying technology and infrastructure, that sort of thing. I think too too much of the time, people try and cater towards users having to be like prophets of a specific blockchain or blockchain network. To be completely honest, in kind of Web two, you don't know what underlying like services or servers or cloud computing networks or anything you're using. It's not like people are like, all right, Azure, AWS, like, yes, those are the best. It's, hey, if it works, if it's fast, if it has good uptime, like that's a good user experience. And I think we generally feel the same, where we like people that are prophets that love Avalanche, that want to continue to speak highly of Avalanche. But at the end of the day, users just want good, highly performant blockchain networks that they don't even know what they're using. The blockchain's abstracted, the wallet experience is abstracted, that sort of thing. And so, kind of you hit the nail on the head from a user perspective. It's having the best underlying application ecosystem with technology that enables scalability, speed, that sort of thing. And from like a builder ecosystem, kind of enabling those builders with whatever they might need from the underlying infrastructure, tooling, um, kind of direct access to our team to help with technical questions, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of what drives me personally at this point in time.
Definitely. I mean, you did mention that you guys are involved in the community, and that the community is important for every project at all. How would you describe? I mean, you've been in Ava family for such a long time. How would you describe everyone in it? Huh?
In our community,
Yep.
yeah, honestly, I would say we're a big family because there's like the highs are very high and the lows. We do have some bickering within the community. And so a family is probably the best way to think about it, where um, if you ever have like if you've ever had like a big holiday, whether it be I don't know, whatever locally people celebrate, where you have like 30 family members over, 40 family members over. It's a great time. There might be drinks involved, unlimited food, and then the occasional just argument that kind of gets out of hand, but everyone makes up at the end, and it's all good. That's exactly how I would describe our community at this point in time, where um, everyone's super passionate, and it's been kind of a rough year and a half in terms of just like underlying market conditions. At the end of the day, when the arguments do happen, everyone makes up. We're all friends. Kind of people set their differences aside. But yeah, I really enjoy our community, and I hope everyone kind of prospers when better market conditions um, change. And I think we're going to see kind of a influx of new users as we continue to build fun applications for them to use. I think our gaming pipeline is one of the best in terms of like all of blockchain at this point in time. And I think there's a non-zero chance that gaming is how the masses end up getting involved within crypto and blockchain. Right now, I mean, people that are currently like using the underlying infrastructure, so being like actually on chain, it's a pretty low number. And I think we could get to that like 50 to 100 million users if gaming succeeds kind of as an underlying blockchain industry.
Amazing. I mean, that type of the community is the strongest one. Family, and they,
Yeah.
they stay there. I mean, you cannot never get out of the family. Anyway, uh, anyway, on how does the Avalanche and Avalabs measure the impact of its activities that you guys have, and on development of the Avalanche public blockchain wider on the wider Avalanche community?
Yeah, I think impact is really hard to mention, or sorry, measure. A lot of the time people look at stuff like transactions, unique active addresses, TVL, unique users, like volumes, that sort of thing. There's a lot that can be measured. I think filtering by what's real and what's fake, especially when you're trying to compare yourself to like other ecosystems, it's pretty important to do because you want to only see like real metrics versus like metrics that might be botted. And so we do data comparisons in terms of like all of the underlying metrics that I mentioned, as well as we kind of look at the more I guess non-quantitative measures, so more qualitative. Um, and so I think that might look like community, like builders, people interested in like our infrastructure, that sort of thing. And I think there's a lot of like developer metrics that also we're relatively biased in nature, in which we're trying to conform to those like reporting metrics, but also ensure that in the future um, we have non-biased information as well when we want to compare ourselves to other ecosystems in like the developer front. But yeah, I think what defines success for us, like I mentioned in the prior question, is kind of just enabling the most users, the most builders, and the most like kind of assets to come on chain that can really benefit from blockchain technology and industries where blockchain technology might make the industry in general more efficient in nature.
Amazing. And you did touch about the some of the team members. And are you guys active on Twitter? I mean, not chilling, but talking about Avex. And who are the most active besides you?
Yeah, so I'll throw some mentions out there. I'd say Emin, so our CEO, John Wu, our president, Kevin, he's our COO, Luigi, head of DevRel and head of DeFi, and then Patrick O'Grady, he's our head of engineering. To be completely frank, if there's only one person of those five that I would follow, that you just want unbiased like technical updates, it'd be Patrick. He's probably the best follow of that group. Um, From a non-technical perspective, I'd say Luigi is probably the best of that group to follow, where you can at least see like ecosystem news, so applications building on Avalanche more so. But there's a lot of people I could shout out. If possible, I mean, you could always add like a description under this video and give like 15 or 20 accounts to follow. But yeah, there's a lot of good people, a lot of people that generally we don't like to like shill, or even we don't talk about price at all, that sort of thing. It's trying to just stay objective in nature, put out the facts about Avalanche, that sort of thing. So really trying to update the community and update people interested in Avalanche.
I did go on Avalanche and I saw a lot of people there talking about you guys. I mean, you personally is the one I will follow too. And for
Hey,
everyone
thank you.
here, and for everyone here, I mean, whoever is watching, for sure they should go and follow you. And the guy, everyone who you did mention, unfortunately, is the part where we came to the end, and then I think we did. We can talk for an hour. I mean, Avalanche has a rich history behind it, and a rich future in front of us. And I just want to thank you for coming on, Matt. And you did mention maybe we'll have run up next time, talking more about Avalanche next time. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. It was such an honor having you and educating the users about Avalanche and the blockchain technology, Matt. Hopefully, you had amazing time with us, and hopefully, we will see you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and you have a nice rest of your day.